What's going on, y'all, and welcome back to another Etheria restart video. What a big day. Y'all watched the Liliam buff video I just put out. I'm sure you saw it everywhere else on the Discord. Everybody's been talking about it. There's already been a ton of runs, but I wanted my try my own Liliam style and see how she ended up working with the buffs. And I have so many thoughts, so thank you so much for tuning in. We're gonna go through everything. The builds I showed y'all to start with the montage between the niconana, the rengo, the aurora. She's pretty much improved every single run I have. And not only did she replace diting, they buffed her so much, she might even be replacing my yeli in a lot of content. Now, yeli's still good. Don't worry. I saw some people in my chat earlier saying, like, I need to reset yeli now, not just diting if they ever give a reset event. One, I don't think they're going to give us a reset event. But two, we still need yeli for AoE. And then, of course, they perform different roles in PvP and stuff. However, stay tuned till the end. I'm going to give my entire thoughts on the buffs, good, bad. It's not a black and white answer, guys. But yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. First off, here is the gear I used in those 3 clips. However, if you want to check out my either YouTube or Twitch VODs, they're available, the full thing. I didn't start on a optimized gear set like this where we dropped our crit rate. I'm on attack, or damage. Don't worry, I'll slow down and show you guys everything. But just in case you guys are watching, you don't need this much gear. In fact, improving this much gear didn't really improve my times by that much. It might just improve consistency when, some debuffs fail to land. So don't worry about if you can't get, this perfect set. And honestly, it's not even perfect because we could go like Fury Edge here, probably be a little bit better. But without even having any crit main stat here, we are still pretty much crit cap. So I don't know if Fury Edge is actually preferred because I'm enjoying the extra speed here a little bit. Anyways, it's just some momentum build. I started on using, actually, just to give y'all a little rundown, and I'll talk about the summons here in just a sec, but just to show y'all something, I just wanted to, the first 3 clips are just highlights. But I was actually using like a very scuffed set that I had on my diting for the longest time. This is like my week 1 or 2 diting. I'm trying to find it here. Hopefully it won't take too long. I have so many loadouts now, but essentially, I just want to reassure you guys that I started the stream with only 2 prowess or 2 dupes into Liliam, which once again, you don't need that either. It just gives you 5% stats plus 8% crit. But every bit, of course, gives extra help with your gearing. So essentially, I just don't want anyone to be scared off and have you think that you needed like crazy gear for any of this. No, she's buffed so much that you can get away. Like, this is what we were rocking at the start of the stream. And like I said, we were overcapped on crit. We had like, oh my God, I didn't even realize that. We had 1200 less attack. Although we did, the crit damage was lower. Yeah, essentially we had less stats overall and it was still fine. I think a lot of y'all can get away with a Liliam on 0 dupes. And even if your gear is not perfect, you're going to see her perform amazingly because of how much help they gave her with the recent update. So I'll talk about the, let's talk about the gear in just a second here, guys. However, first, let me show a quick montage. We did end up max duping her. I promised myself that I would kind of slow down on spending in Etheria. I know it's my job and all that. However, I did after the yeli dupes. The reason is because don't do this at home, especially if you guys are not like a crazy spender, of course. But I ended up hitting, I believe, pretty much 4 pities. I did 1 tap 1 Liliam when she first came out. However, today on stream, I did end up hitting like 2 or 3 more pities. But big shout out to one of my viewers, Vanira. He offered to kind of go pretty much 50-50 on whatever I spend to get the last 3 dupes. So it's just more for fun. I promise you don't need this, and don't feel pressured or anything to max dupe any character in this game, as the dupes obviously give extra stats. The last one here, especially 10% damage and 10% damage reduced for PvP, is very good. And then the crit chance, crit damage, 10% bonus stats. It's nothing to scoff at, but it's not like another like Hoyo game, for example, where you get additional skills and it actually alters anything like that. Really, it's just more stats. And I promise now we're going to scale back the whaling out, so you guys can thank me later on on funding the servers. But actually, for my YouTube commenters, can y'all let me know, if you don't stop by the live streams, how many pities have y'all gotten? I'm not even talking about those of you that are whales that pull for multiple copies, but how many times have y'all hit pity for any banner, let alone red, green, blue, and Apex, light and dark? Because my track record between my Liliam and my yeli here, both maxed out, I think about, if we have 12 copies total, I'm not even kidding, 10 out of the 12 were full pity. So yeah, don't try this at home. Once again, you're gonna get burned unless you're super lucky, or maybe my account is just cursed and I'm extremely unlucky. The answer is probably somewhere in the middle, where you're pitying like maybe half. But yeah, I've hit the short end of the stick, and so yeah, I'm not going to be spending too much more here in the future on whale banners. But anyways, let's go and talk about the gear real fast, and then I want to show you all some PvP, and then let's wrap up our thoughts on the whole thing between the buffs and all that. But we're doing for PvE, this is a Momentum Fury setup. I think you can do a lot of different setups, but I think Momentum, if you can land some debuffs, is typically the best for PvE strictly. Swift Raid, Fury Edge. Fury Edge is probably a little better, unless you can cap out your crit, and then you get some free speed. But don't forget, you also get some crit damage as well, so it's kind of equal. But I went for attack, crit damage. Just have a good mix of attack and crit damage. And then left side gear, I will slowly show y'all here. Remember on the helmet, guys, you want to get some type of attack percent. If you can actually get higher attack here, that's preferable. But I had to go for one of my highest crit rate subs because I'm dropping the crit rate module on the right-hand side. Crit damage here, and then just some crit with speed. And then once again on the right-hand side, attack, main stat, attack, and then some crit damage. Your mileage may vary, especially if you don't have a prowess Lilium. You may need to go for like a, you know, crit rate module, and that's fine. Once again, I was just ranting that I had much, you know, I showed you on my example, starter diting gear. One of them was a crit rate, one crit rate module, and that's just fine. She'll still be hitting like a truck. In terms of the prowess, if you didn't watch my video yesterday, I actually think the recommended route now that she's a PvE unit, as well as a PvP unit, but just in general, even if we were playing PvP too, I think the plays definitely go S3 first. Not only do you get speed, but we get those, you know, buffed damage multipliers here. And then the reduced skill cooldown, of course, for PvE is very, very nice to hit those earlier turns. Skill 1 will be next, because if you play some PvP, we really want to get the turn meter minus effects. There are a lot of units that will push you back. And then, you know, the free attack is great too. Skill 2, you can honestly save for never. It is nice, though, because you do get the 12% crit. And if you do play PvP, I would advise y'all to try and get, you know, maybe up to 4. And then at that point, you know, you might as well, because at 4 you get the +8 crit, and then this is maybe not that necessary. There's a lot of times I was testing a little bit of PvP where the S2, you know, the S2 is really just to land a stun a lot of times. And getting this last one is probably a little bit of a win more lattice, but I mean, at this point, I decided to just max it out. So I would go for max S3 essentially. Let's go back here. Max S3, max S1, and then however much you guys want in S2. If you have extra lattices, you want the crit, you use her a ton, go ahead and get that. You can optimize your stats even more like I did. Drop the crit rate module potentially. And then you don't really need this last one, but yeah, if you really like Lilium, go ahead and get it. Other than that, I can just show you all my PvP gear, and we can talk about PvP real fast. I really still think the two sets that have been working out best for me, and I'll talk about them both real quick. First up is the Strive Lilium, and this one is just more for generic play, especially against bruisers now. Guys, the HP destroy that they gave her, the increased HP destroy is crazy. I mentioned beforehand that this is the weakest part of her kit, is the destroy HP. Now I think it's one of the better parts of her kit, because now we can run her very effectively in bruisers. She pretty much doubled, or literally doubled, the effect at which she destroys your enemy's HP. So things like Tiamat now increased with the damage, or in combination with the damage, we're getting her on that HP lock so fast. I fought a guildmate earlier who sniped me in real-time arena, and I was able to pretty much nullify his Tiamat in like 2 S3s on Lilium. And when you're on Gigabyte Strive, we are taking turns so fast. I pretty much, destroyed her entire HP down to 20% within like a couple turns on Lilium. And then I kind of just sat there and left her doing 0 damage and left her alive till the very end. Hopefully I'm showing some of y'all that footage. So I think this is a very nice build for bruiser comps. However, you will run into some issues where she could end up dying, because even though we're on Bloodbath, things like a Yeli can still nuke us down. Things that can do a lot of AoE damage, let's say Messiah plus something else, that's where we're going to want something like the Law of Silence Lilium. Now, this is not going to give us obviously as much cycling as Gigabyte. However, it does give us the Law of Silence, the Void effect, which means things like Yeli won't be able to follow up attack us. You know, she'll be able to AoE us, but not only do we get that huge damage reduction, she can't click us after. And it's also very relevant for other things like single target nukes. Maybe you're fighting some Hoyans. A lot of times, unless they have some kind of strip, they won't be able to target our Lilium. So I do think having a Law is ready, having a Law ready is nice to have as a kind of backup. If, you know, the day you're queuing real-time arena or summit arena, there's a lot of players that are running Yelis or things that can target you, that want to nuke you down. Especially now that I think, guys, Lilium, and while I talk, let me show you guys the stats. Especially now, because I think Lilium is going to be a very high pick potential unit, like first pick worthy. Now that she can work really well against bruisers, now that her damage is insane, I think a lot of people are going to be first picking her or pre-banning her, or, you know, putting her on that band protect, obviously, because I think she just works in so many different comps now. They honestly overbuffed her, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But here are the stats for the Gigabyte Strive build if anyone wants to try this out. This is honestly my favorite build because I think it's the most versatile. It just is at risk of dying to high nuke, where this is where the Law of Silence build will come in and save me. But just to show you all the gear again, here you go. And yeah, guys, the Liliam has been working absolutely insane. Not only did she pretty much power creep out diting and yeli for better for worse, she improved my aurora run for this 2x weekend. We went from like a 2.5 minute clear between yeli or shiata down to like a pretty consistent 1 minute, sometimes even less than 1 minute clear in aurora. 1 minute rengo, which is much safer because I can run things like what's her name, Linglo, instead of my yeli comp that had like Lily Kloss, yeah. So she even made Rengo better. She made Aurora better. I'm doing like a 17-second speed run on Niconana, and that's full auto. We don't have to manual the cheese out. I could probably do some kind of cheese speed run here too to get on the leaderboard, but I'm not too worried about that. Essentially, they overbuffed her, guys. So let's go ahead and wrap up here by talking about the overall buffs and what actually happened. So, long story short, they gave her so many buffs, and in all honesty, guys, and this is as someone that is taking full advantage, right? We have a 5 out of 5 Liliam. We're going to use the crap out of her in every mode, but I don't think this was the best move overall. I do think, you know, giving her some slight buffs was great. Don't get me wrong, right? The PvE buff, 100% supported. I like that. I think units should feel strong in PvE. I don't think there's ever an issue with making PvE units too strong. So the 50% damage increase they gave her, I believe it was on the S3, for PvE, right, when targeting your boss. Very nice. I like that from Etheria. However, all the extra stuff they gave her on top that made her even better in PvP too, I think could be a little bit of overcorrection. Okay, please don't get mad at me. I know I've seen the Discords, I've seen Reddit. I know a lot of people, there's like a civil war going on between people that thought Liliam was fine, between the people that really wanted Liliam buffs, and now people feel vindicated that the devs listened and all that. I'm glad that the devs did buff her. I do think for PvE, I love that she does more damage in PvE. I don't think she should have felt weaker than a diting, fully invested, right? However, it is a little bit of a slippery slope. Just trust me on this. I have 7 years of experience in Epic 7, and I mean this with all honesty, that a lot of times when we make characters too powerful, or if we, if the developers kind of acquiesce to the community too quickly in terms of complaints, a lot of times what that leads is to issues like power creep, heavy power creep, afraid to nerf units. We have issues where now that Liliam is so strong, the next unit has to be very strong as well. Otherwise, you know, we will repeat history where the community will complain that she's too weak, and then we'll get buffs. And then not only that, you start to get to the area where we have such strong units in the game, because now we've set that precedent that now you create a problem, Liliam might become a problem unit. Let's say a future unit is as strong as Liliam or better, that's a problem unit, and then, you know, they sell the solution, which is the next unit that comes out, and you have a, you know, an endless cycle of power creep. So not trying to scare anybody or doom, no doomer talk here. It's just something I have noticed in previous games. So please, you know, don't get upset at what I'm saying. Let's not be emotional. Once again, I really like the buffs for PvE. I'm enjoying the heck out of Liliam, but it is just something I want y'all to be at least aware of and maybe mindful when asking for changes to the game, because if you do care about the longevity and the health, that is something you want to kind of curb and not just always ask for more and more and more. Anyways, let's stop talking about that. Enjoy your Liliams, guys. Long story short, she is a must-pull unit now. They buffed the crap out of her. PvE, PvP. She is an absolute powerhouse. No questions asked. I think she is one of the strongest units in the game, potentially the strongest unit in the game now, between both PvE and PvP. And anytime they're good at both, that is a full recommendation for me to go ahead and pick up and just start going to town. You still probably need some lattices into her to make her feel really good, but the amount of significant buffs they gave her means almost everybody, even with low investment, will make her work in a lot of improvements to their PvE potential. So we'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for watching. Keep stopping by the live streams. If you want to hang out with me, I'll probably be doing like 12 hours plus grinding out Aurora for the 2x event. So as always, I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.